Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be. Join us on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration as we explore the world of leadership and personal growth. In each episode, we will explore the art and science of effective leadership, bringing you insights, stories, and strategies from experts and thought leaders across various industries. And now your host, Dawn Marie Bornhammer, Maisha B. Hoy, and Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be as you lead, empower, inspire, and achieve. I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter, Editor-in-Chief of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine.
And I'm Dawn Marie Bornhammer, Chief Impact Officer for Mission Inspired Consulting.
And we are super excited to have our guest this evening, Dr. Mark King. With over 30 years in public education, he has served as a middle and high school principal in Prince George's County, Maryland. He's been an instructional superintendent with DC Public Schools and Deputy Chief of Operations and Programs in Baltimore City. Under his leadership, schools achieved significant academic growth, including removing 2 from the state lowest 5% performing lists. He currently serves as the Chief Education Officer at Arts for Learning Maryland, one of 13 organizations nationally recognized by the United States Department of Education for excellence in out-of-school time programming. A proud member of Men of Color in Education and Leadership, he is known for his expertise in data-driven instruction, school improvement, and mentoring educational leaders. He has recently released a book entitled The Middle School Master. Dr. King, we are truly fortunate to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. And when you read it, it's very humbling. But in reflection, it has been very rewarding.
I love
thank
that.
you for having me. Thank you for
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my goodness. I really want you to start by sharing your journey because you really, I've known you since you've been a middle school principal.
Right.
So It's been a long time, but you have done so much since that time. So if you could just share about your journey and please include how you landed at Arts for Learning Maryland and what led you to authoring your first book.
Okay. Well, I initially went to FAMU, Florida A&M University, and I was a secondary education major. I was a history major. And all this came about because as a middle school student, I had my first opportunity to interact with African American male teachers, which really had a profound effect on me because I went to 6 elementary schools before I actually went to middle school. So every year I went to a different school. So when I went to, back then it was junior high. So when I went to junior high, my first period was African American male teacher Johnny T. Smith. Now with the second period, Charles A. Albert was my science teacher. And these were brand new experiences for me, not only being in the middle school, junior high setting, but also having African American males lead the instructional piece. By the end of the day, I had Buford Ward, who was my math teacher. He's another African American male. And when I was leaving, I was so excited to have African American male teachers that I was running down the stairs to go catch the bus because I had never ridden a bus before in my life. I ran into Eugene W. Grant, and he was the principal. And he had on this 3-piece suit I never get. He had on this black pinstripe suit. I ran into him in middle school. I was a child, little. I ran into him. I bumped into him. I fell down. And I picked up all my papers. I looked up at him and he said, "Stop running in my hallway." Like, wow. So I go to get on the bus and the assistant principal, Thomas A. Blue, is doing bus duty. I had never seen this in my life. So that had a major impact on me and what I wanted to do moving forward. So I decided, since Buford T. Ward, Thomas A. Blue went to FAMU, I was going to FAMU. So I went to FAMU. I graduated. Then Bob Gaskins came down to FAMU to recruit teachers, and I met Bob Gaskins, and it was just amazing. Him and Ed House, and they actually wanted me to come after I received my bachelor's degree. But I told them, I said, I have a scholarship and opportunity to get this master's degree, so I'm gonna stay. But I'll see you when you come back. And they was like, yeah, we will definitely see you. After I received my master's degree, they came back and they remembered me. That was monumental to me. So that's how I left Florida and came to Prince George's County, Maryland. So during the course of my tenure in Prince George's County, I taught middle school social studies. I then became a peer mediation specialist where we were training children to help mediate disputes and things that happen in schools. Then I went to Hyattsville Middle School and became an assistant principal. The Hyattsville years under Gail Golden were some of the most monumental moments of learning that I've ever had outside of a school setting. When I left there after 6 years and she made me leave, she said, "You ready to be a principal?" I was like, "I'm not quite sure." She said, "I'm sure because I've seen it done." So I went to James Madison Middle School to become the middle school principal. And during that tenure, Dr. Porter, that's when I met you. You were my regional instructional specialist, and you were just so instrumental in the instructional piece that we were able to start seventh grade algebra classes, eighth grade geometry classes. We also had a Spanish teacher, and I hired a French teacher. So by the time students left middle school, there was a possibility that they could actually get 4 high school credits. But back then, they had to pass the high school assessment. And I was blessed with some of the best middle school algebra teachers and geometry teachers, Penny Foster and Karen Bump. And I still remember these people to this day. That we had a 98% pass rate on the high school assessment for children that were in middle school. So I knew what was possible, but I also understood that there had to be more because that ninth grade retention rate actually belongs to middle school principals. So I wanted to ensure that not only were they prepared, but they also had high school credits. And some of those credits, we already know the algebra and the ninth grade English language arts is a problem for our children as far as matriculating through high school. So after that, I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. to supervise middle school principals. During that time, we were able to outpace the nation in our NAEP scores and our trial urban district assessment scores. So that was a very important time for me because I learned the central office aspect of how to run buildings. And I was able to work with those principals. And some of those principals I'm still in touch with now. I was able to work with those principals to help them understand the why and the how behind what we're doing. So that is when I actually started writing the middle school master. Now that was 10 years ago. But I also needed for me to complete a doctoral degree to prove that what we were doing at James Madison Middle School could be done in other areas. So my dissertation, the title was Data Analysis as an Instructional Tool to Improve Reading in Urban Middle Schools. So while I was doing that, I was also in my mind formulating a book about how to help middle school principals navigate this time frame where not only are middle school children a different breed, but also the middle school teachers are a different breed because it takes a special person to deal with somebody who's 12 years old one day and then 21 years old the next day. So those are the foundational skills behind the book. And after that, my boss, John Davis, best boss I've ever had, he went to Baltimore City Public Schools and he called me. He said, I need a favor. And I'm just like, my boss, whatever you need, I will do that for you. And he said, I need you to come here and supervise principals. I was like, it's not a problem. I've done that work. I was also the deputy chief of operations and programs in DC Public Schools. So I understand school security, food nutrition services. So there were a lot of things under that umbrella, including facilities that I understood. So coming to Baltimore City, based on my supervisor, was not an issue. But then he told me, I need you to supervise elementary school principals. And I was like, sir, I have not been in elementary school since I left elementary school. He said, the majority of these schools are K-8 schools, and you'll be fine because I know you and you know how to manage the people. So I had the opportunity to learn the elementary aspect leading to the middle school aspect. So it gave me a better foundation around what is needed for children to be successful in middle school based on my experiences in elementary school. So after doing that, I had the opportunity to meet Stacey Evans because Arts for Learning was a part of a lot of my school doing their out of school time program. And I can remember vividly asking Rochelle Machado, she's the principal of a pre-K through second grade. I was like, how are these children performing so well based on district assessments in Dibbles and iReady compared to other pre-K through second grade teachers at schools? He said, Arts for Learning. So that piqued my interest because I have never seen in my, well, prior to this, my 27 years of education, seen an out of school program actually use district wide assessments to indicate that the data moves based on the assessment the school systems are using. Because normally, when you have out of school time programs, what they do is they have their own assessment. And everybody's own assessment looks great. But how does that correlate to what we are doing as a district? So in reviewing the data, I met Stacey Evans, and we did a school visit over the summer, and it was nice. And but I was like, okay, let me go see another one because oftentimes people will show you the best and the brightest. I said, let me go to a zip code where students have historically been underserved, redlined, and have not had the equitable access to educational resources that they need to be successful. So I went to Wildwood Elementary Middle School, it's a K-8, and I saw the same thing. So I asked Curtis Donnelly, who's now the executive director at Dream Academy, which is a comprehensive middle school that we converted into a charter school based on arts integration. I said, send me the data. This looks good. And when I went through the data, it verified what Rochelle Machado had said in the pre-K through 2 rail. So now I'm more than intrigued. And what really got me was the achievement of special education children, children whose native language is not English, and math. I had never seen a program able to increase math scores that outpace reading scores. So now I'm more than intrigued. So me and Stacey Evans, we continue to have this conversation, and I told her, I said, I think I can help because I know a lot of schools do not have the opportunity that these children have, and I know a lot of absolute programs are not producing this type of data. So for me, access to three things: evidence-based strategies. Number one, collaborative planning. Number two is co-teaching. And number three is when you layer arts integration on top of that, you have the opportunity for children to demonstrate mastery of standards in an entirely different way. So in my head, I'm thinking these children are being assessed in a way that they cannot demonstrate mastery. So I have to give them the opportunity to demonstrate mastery in a different way through the co-teaching model and where an artist literally sits down with a teacher and collaboratively plans with that teacher based on the standard that children are struggling. And the deeper level is the prerequisite skill that they need to master that standard. So what we're doing essentially with Arts for Learning Maryland is we're taking prerequisite standards so they can master the standards. And we're using evidence and research-based strategies of co-teaching and collaborative planning to ensure these children are successful. So I know that was kind of long-winded, but that's the long story short.
No, I love it. And as a school principal with the Arts Integration Program currently, in my building, I am anxiously awaiting the end of the year. Because I just know with the intentional focus, and those points that you made with the students who are not English speakers, special ed, math, those are all of my points. Those are all of the areas I need to improve. And so I'm excited to have them in three grade levels, kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. And
Right.
so just really excited about the students are loving it. And I'm just really intrigued about the achievement that I know we're going to make. So just
Yeah.
congratulations and all of that. And I just
Thank
look
you. Thank
forward
you.
to the
Thank
program
you.
expanding. And by the way, I love Stacy. Stacy
Oh,
is absolutely the best.
she really is.
The
And
best.
we laugh all the time because what we did and what they have been doing prior to me getting there, they made learning fun again.
That's awesome.
I don't know where, somewhere along the lines, we took the fun out of school.
Yes.
So infusing the enjoyment of learning back into schools and the ability to build foundational skills that allow children to take algebra in eighth grade and allow them to read to learn in third grade and not learning to
Learn to
read
read. Yes.
is phenomenal.
I love it. So thank you all for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for understanding the differentiation is the key.
Absolutely. Awesome.
It's so interesting to think about the integration of art as an opportunity to demonstrate mastery. Prior to listening to you explain that beautiful explanation, I really was thinking about it as a creative outlet to allow students to kind of tap in and better understand the concepts and what they're learning. Can you give us an example of how that integration comes to life for the student? Maybe one skill that they're developing or one way that the arts integration really allows that skill to be sticky or to make more sense for a child to then demonstrate mastery?
Oh, absolutely. And let me preface it with I think the math scores increasing more than the reading scores are based on the ability to integrate arts into the content standard. For example, half of blue plus half of yellow equals one part green. So what you have just done, you created a fraction. One half plus one half equals a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, students now understand not only the fraction, but you take it another level. One half equals zero point 0.5. So zero point 0.5 blue plus zero point 0.5 yellow equals one whole grain. So the ability for students to see and understand fractions and decimals in that fashion makes it come to life for them. So now they clearly understand that, oh, half plus half equals a whole. If you take the colors out of it, it's still the same equation. The same thing with instrumental music. A quarter note plus a quarter note equals a half note. So now we're still helping them understand fractions. We're doing it in an entirely different way to where now if I'm inclined to music or if I'm inclined to visual arts, I understand that the quarter plus the quarter equals a half. A
Mm-hmm.
half note plus a half note equals a whole note. So that is the way that a lot of students understand. And now you can demonstrate your understanding of decimals and fractions in an entirely different way. So that's one reason I think that the math
That's a beautiful
outpaces the
example.
ELA. And when we get into your ELA standards, point of view. So when we're talking about students demonstrating point of view in a story, tell a story in your point of view. Poets, nowadays everybody wants to be a rapper or whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be. We're going to read this story, not tell a story in your point of view. So now you understand the point of view. So even outside of your ELA class, you get the opportunity to express yourself and give your point of view. So those are things that that make it real for children, and I think that's important, almost as important as enjoying visual arts or enjoying instrumental music. So those are the things that I think that really makes it, that really embeds it in their memory. So when you see a half plus a half, what does that equal? Or if you see a half plus X equals one, now you can put it together because you've had this experience of integrating visual arts as well as instrumental music, and it all makes sense.
Now, those are beautiful examples. Thank you for that. I was really trying to operationalize it in my head, right? I was a teacher in the early 2000s, and certain technologies were a luxury. If you had a computer in your classroom, you were doing great. If you had a smartboard in one building, it was fantastic. And other than that, we had manipulatives and we tried to do different creative things, but we had a very creative art teacher that joined our staff, and it made all the difference. And at that time, she was using different creative ways to teach. And to know that there's programs out there now that are doing it on such a massive scale is fantastic. So thank you so much for the work that you do. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Mark, oh my goodness, your book. First of all, I'm so excited about this book. Congratulations on the
Thank you.
launch of it,
Thank
and
you.
I've seen so many beautiful signings that you've had. So,
Thank
congratulations. But the middle school master, it really focuses on the unique roles of middle school, right? And so, as a former middle school principal myself, I know that this is a stage of learning that's critical and sometimes extremely challenging. As you mentioned, not only for the students, but for the staff as well. And it does take a special kind of person to be there with those middle schoolers throughout the day. Can you share how your book really addressed these challenging years?
I think the book is, and we shout out John Brooks. I think the book is one of the things that he told me a long time ago when he was my supervisor. He said, "Young man, the answers are not in the book." And I can remember thinking, well, why not? So that was also a motivating factor. And during my time working with middle school principals and middle school teachers, there were certain attributes that they bring to the table. And one of the things in the book is one thing you are not going to do is embarrass a middle school child. There is no way. So in middle school, when you are working with those children, there are certain things that are age appropriate behavior. And the middle school teachers need to understand that this is age appropriate. Now, let me be clear. I understand the push for 90 minutes of ELA and 90 minutes of math. I understand that. But is it actually age appropriate for a child to sit for 90 minutes between the ages of 12 and 14? Absolutely not. I'm an adult. If you ask me to sit for 90 minutes, I'm going to have an issue. So the level of understanding that the middle school teacher brings to the table as far as what's developmentally appropriate for these students is critical. Another thing I discussed in the book beyond the training of the middle school teachers is the middle school leader, because there are leadership attributes in the book as well. So what you have to understand is teachers actually run your building. So you should lead like you understand that. If 5 teachers decide that they're going to call out on payday Friday, who's teaching class? So let's be clear. If you take care of the adults, they will take care of the children. And one of the best stories I have is actually when I was entirely wrong. But I had teachers pressing me about advisories. Now, Dr. Porter, understand this was 20 years ago when advisories were almost unheard of. And there was no curriculum. They kept pressing me about this advisory thing. I was like, okay, you know what? Okay, we'll do it. But as a leader, you have to understand that they have the pulse on 1,000 children. They know better than you. So they convinced me that we will implement advisories every other Friday for the last 30 minutes of the day. Because that was my caveat. I was like, look, we cannot do this in the middle of the day because I can't live with that. So here we go, advisories. I make the announcement, okay, children, go to your advisories. But the beauty of it was teachers decided what they were going to do in advisory. And children signed up for what they wanted to do. So we had everything from somebody teaching chess, somebody doing sewing, somebody there was a music instrumental music class. There was a chance for children to go play basketball. So there were a lot of opportunities, and children actually got to sign up for those opportunities. So here comes this Friday. It's the last 30 minutes of the day. I'm already losing my mind. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stand in this hallway and I'm going to be right here in the crux where everybody moves because it's going to be madness. It was not. Children moved in an orderly fashion to the advisory, and I stood there in the middle of the hall watching children move, and I was like, you know what? This is what they want to do. So they will put themselves in a position to do what they want to do, and they're not gonna mess it up. I stood there and I watched. I was like, this is absolutely amazing. And from that point on, every other Friday, we had advisory. And the beauty of it was teacher driven. It was not Mark King saying this is what we're gonna do. The teachers kept pressing me about this, and they were absolutely right. So as the leader, you have to understand that there is power in the ability to say, I was wrong. But unfortunately, that's one of the things that I put in the book. That's not in the book because too many people get enamored with, I'm Principal Mark King instead of a Mark King principal. My mother didn't name me principal. She didn't name me doctor. Those are things that I achieved. But when you become enamored with the title, you lose focus on the people, especially in middle schools that are under 15. And it's really about those people under 15. So those are some of the things in the book that I discuss, um, as well as things like the master schedule. If you don't get your master schedule right, you will have a mess. I don't care what it is. And I was a master scheduler at high school, middle school, and I hate the master schedule, let me be clear, because it literally takes 2 to 3 months to create that master schedule. And we had an 8A-B day. So essentially what you're doing, you're creating two master schedules. And if you get that right, your life will be a lot easier. So that's one of the things that I discuss in the book. The attention to that master schedule and the details in that schedule will help you be successful during the course of the year because it is structured, it is organized. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. So there are a lot of different things in the book that I think that are important, but I think the most important part is well, two things: the analyzing data and next steps for principals. Because I tried to include next steps. I was like, look, I tried to make the book easy to read, but I know it's 100 pages. But let's talk about next steps for you. And these are things that you need to look at yourself first. You use an I statement. I need to do this because it's easy to say what we need to do, and when it goes wrong, like we didn't do it right. No, 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 no. When it goes wrong, I didn't do it right. When it goes right, we did that. So that is one of the most important things as far as leadership is concerned. But when you're talking about analyzing the data, I understand that every child is not a number, but I also understand that every number is important to a child. I have never met a parent that says, I do not want my child to be proficient. Proficient meaning on grade level or advanced. That doesn't happen. Everybody wants the best for their child, but they do not know how to articulate it. So what I tried to do for the teachers and the parent was explain to them, this is where your child is struggling. Fractions, algebraic equations, whatever the case may be. And this is what you can do to help them improve. So when they're analyzing the data, because back then we had quarterly benchmarks. So after that second quarter benchmark, what I did, I created a packet for children to take home over the holiday, which was not well received. because this is a holiday and I don't want my child doing work over the holiday. And it's hard conversation with parents because I want your child to be successful, and this is what they need to do to be successful. If you complete this packet, you'll get credit for that. If you don't complete it, there's no harm, no foul. So we took the standards that every grade level was struggling with, and Marcy Gray and Dana Blair created a literal packet for children to take home with them. The math part was created by DeWanna Wilson. So this is what your child is struggling with, based on the benchmark that we've seen thus far. And I liken it to your midterm exam. This is your midterm. This is what we have seen thus far. So by the time we get to March and April, I already know who's going to be successful because we have analyzed data for each individual child. And back to the master schedule, we built in an accelerated reading class for children who were below grade level as well as for children who are above grade level. So this is now an elective to where you can continue to get better regardless of where you are. So those are the things that I tried to put into the book to help people understand how this works without telling them what to do.
Yes. Wow. I love it. I love it. And you mentioned you gave your shout out to good old JB, John
Oh,
Brooks. Hadn't heard that name
oh,
in forever. But it just took me back to those years, those when you were at James Madison. I was in the Region 4 office. JB was our supervisor along with Kathy Kurtz and all the amazing team that we had. It was a special time
yes.
during that time and a time that I've not experienced since then.
Oh no.
Um,
Oh no. Oh no, and I don't think we will. And the funny thing about John Brooks, I used to call John Brooks so often that his wife would call me her son.
oh, wow.
I would call, she was like, your son is on the phone because he has daughters. Your
Yes,
son is on the phone. I'm like, yeah, I mean, but he was so instrumental and
that's
so
awesome.
even keeled that he helped me transition from middle school principal to high school
The high
principal.
school, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. That's amazing because that was, like I said, when I was the RS, that was pre-principalship for me.
Hmm.
So you guys were the model. No, really, that whole Region 4 time was, preparing me for principalship. And so it was a great time. And when you mentioned John Brooks, it just brought all of that back to memory.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So thank you.
So, Dr. King, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts would be, or what types of guidance or advice you would offer for a classroom teacher that's considering the bridge to school leadership. Maybe the assistant principalship, furthering their education to pursue the administrative level. What do you recommend that they ask themselves before they make that decision about the transition?
A few things. First, be instructionally sound, not only in your grade level, but in the grade level prior. If you teach third grade, you need to understand second grade standards. If you teach third grade, you need to understand fourth grade standards. So be instructionally sound, I think, is most important. But what's also important is, and it's a class I took in my master's program, and I was just like, this is the biggest waste of time I've ever had. But when I got into that chair, I understood how important it was. Group dynamics.
Mm. That was
Can
a good
you,
class. I took that class.
yeah, can you manage people? Are you nice to people? Do you treat people well? The two most important words of every day are good morning. And when you ask somebody how they're doing, don't just ask somebody how they're doing. Listen. How you doing today? Well, I had a rough night last night. Well, hopefully the day will be better. So, I mean, because those are things that are important to teachers. So if you're transitioning from teacher to administrator, understand who actually runs your building.
Yeah,
There was a
it's
great
important.
book. Yeah, there's a great book. If you don't feed the teachers, they eat the children. You have to take care of those people that are standing in front of 30 different personalities for 6 hours a day. And
Absolutely.
I get irritated because they say, "Oh, well, just go be a teacher." If it was that easy, there would not be a teacher shortage. Because understand, you're dealing with those 30 children in that class. You get 3 times a day, maybe 4 times a day, depending on the level of each class. You're dealing with adults that you work with. You're dealing with administrators. So the group dynamic piece, I can't say it enough, is critical to being able to improve performance of teachers. Teachers then improve the performance of students. It's a trickle down.
Hmm.
And the third thing I think, what is most important, is feedback. People deserve the truth.
Yeah.
This is a blue shirt. If I say this is a black shirt and you know this is a blue shirt, how long are you going to let me believe this is not a blue shirt? You have to tell people the truth. You have to give them honest feedback on their performance. The best teachers I ever had wanted critical feedback. And sometimes it was hard to find something that they did not do well, but they still want to improve. Everybody wants to improve.
Yeah.
No teacher comes to school 100 and let's say it's 180 days of school year. No teacher comes to school for 160 days to be told that they're bad. You just look for another job. You transfer to another school. But it's the same thing with my children. Children do not come to school for 160 days out of 180 days to be told that they are not doing well. So the group dynamics piece, being instructionally sound horizontally, not I mean I'm sorry, vertically, because you know your content, but being instructionally sound vertically and
Yeah.
understanding the whole K through 12 or 3, 4, 5 or 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, and the understanding that there are people. This is a business. Our business is to produce the best student possible. It's a people business.
Yeah.
You have to take care of the people, and the people will take care of you and those children.
Yeah, no, that's beautifully said. And I think one of the humbling things that I learned, which was a blessing that I came to the classroom with, I have an undergrad in clinical psychology. And so I understood group dynamics. I understood
Mm-hmm.
trauma informed communication before anybody called it that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did work at Johns Hopkins in the family setting. So I actually learned how to earn the right with the parents too. And so that group dynamics class, though, was very pivotal in training in that communication style, recognizing the different personalities, how to meet people where they are, how to navigate the group think when it starts to happen. And then in any leadership role, just assuring them that you are there to listen. When you ask a question, you do care what they have to offer back. Whether it's good morning, how are you, or it's their feedback on, a curricular change or something else that's happening. Um, but I love that you also pointed out the importance of taking care of the very people that take care of the children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so allowing them to all feel seen and heard and valued will trickle down. And that is super important. So, if a classroom teacher is looking to step up and become an administrator and they're looking at that path forward, really asking themselves, how proficient am I in these things that you just mentioned, will help them to decide whether or not they're truly ready to step forward into that next season. So thank you for that.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. I mean, I've been called everything but a child of God by parents. But understanding that these parents, while they may not be able to articulate it, they want the best for their children. They're not mad at you, they're mad at this situation. Now, they can get mad at you if you don't handle the situation properly. But everybody wants the best for their children. Sometimes they don't articulate it in the way that we're accustomed to, and that's not their fault. But our job is to help them understand, as you said, I'm here for your child, but your child can't do A, B, C, and D. So we're going to work. We're going to work through A, B, C, and D in order to make sure that we get them to the place where you want them to go. But everybody wants the best for their child. Nobody says to their children, "Okay, just take care of me; it'll be fine." No, 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 no. They send them so that we can make them better than they were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah. And I think that in those conversations with parents, partnering with them, right? Acknowledging what the school's part is, what the teacher's part is, what you
Mm-hmm.
need from them in the interest of
Mm-hmm.
the child. And then I think just with parent communication in general, just recognizing everyone has the best of intentions and doing your best to meet them where they are and recognizing that they're doing their best to communicate with you and just keep working it because that's important for the children's
Oh
success.
yeah. Oh yeah. Look, back home they say keep chopping wood. Eventually that tree will fall. Keep
Sure
chopping wood.
is.
I love it. We're all going to come up as we give our final questions for Dr. Mark. It's been such an amazing interview so far. Dr. King, as a proud Arts for Learning Maryland Principal Fellow, I know that Arts for Learning Maryland has made humongous strides in advancing equitable access to the arts, and as Chief Education Officer, how do you ensure that equity and inclusion are not just buzzwords, but they are truly embedded in the programming and partnerships and leadership?
I look at zip codes. I look at zip codes that have been redlined, that have been historically underserved, and my job is to ensure that they have access because access is equity. You do not know what a child can do until you give them access. So, me and Stacey talk about it all the time. I literally look at zip codes. I have a map in my office, and I'm looking at zip codes and like, we need to work here because these children and parents have been historically underserved, which creates a distrust not only in the school system, but anybody from outside the school system is coming to work with them because they have historical context that we don't understand. So I specifically look at zip codes. I work inside the Beltway because those are the ones who need the services the most. Not the people outside of the Beltway or in other zip codes don't deserve that service, but I have to go back to that zip code where children have been historically underserved. And now it's my duty to serve them. As I said earlier, I went to 6 different elementary schools before I went to middle school. But back then it was junior high. I've been labeled everything as a special ed student. 2 years later, I went to a school and I was a tag student. By fifth grade, I was like, oh, you all really don't know what y'all are doing. Because it's the same school system, but from school to school, you get labeled differently. And that label as a special education student, if you stay in that school long enough, is a life sentence.
Yes.
It is a life sentence. So it is my duty to ensure that every student in historically underserved zip codes has the opportunity and the access to be successful. That's all I can do.
Thank you for coming to 20748.
I got you. I mean, but realistically, it's a debt.
Yes,
I owe that.
I love
So
it.
this is not an occupation. This is an obligation.
Absolutely.
This is what you have to do.
Well, thank you for the commitment.
No problem. No problem. It's a pleasure to serve.
So, Dr. King, my final question is really related to the power of trusted adults in terms of access to opportunity. The research shows that students that are exposed to advanced coursework between middle school and high school are more likely to persist, and the absentee rate is better. And oftentimes it comes back to the work or the inspiration of a trusted adult that is that person for that student that believes in them before they believe in themselves. Because not every student's going to raise their hand to engage in algebra in eighth grade or to participate in taking a more challenging course. But it does give them opportunity. And it's not always an ability issue, it's an access issue, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your perspective there and maybe some things that you were either put in your book or that you would recommend that helps, establish those relationships inside the building so that the students are given that opportunity and shown the classes or the schedule that they could take advantage of?
That's a lot to unpack. But a few things. First, relationships. Children come to school because there is someone there that they have built a relationship with, especially when you're talking in the elementary grades, because a second grader does not have the ability to bring themselves to. The relationship piece is critical. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, foundational skills. If I had my way, it would be universal pre-K all day.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get to a point when you realize you don't have the foundational skills to be successful, lock out. As I said earlier, nobody goes to school to fail. So if you have the foundational skills to be successful, you will continue to thrive. But it's also that teacher, that relationship that makes you want to be better. The third thing, and I think this is really critical, not only the foundational skills and the relationship, but back mapping. That's back mapping to see what you need to be able to do to address these standards in sixth grade honors math so I can get you into eighth grade algebra. You have to be intentional about every child in that building because that is the job. The intentionality behind ensuring not only foundational skills, not only relationships, making sure a child is not invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a lot of children who do not disrupt class, they're not getting in fights, they will never say a word in class. That is the invisible child who won't raise their hand to ask questions because there's not a relationship there with the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not trust that I can ask this question and be wrong and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because the learning is in the struggle. We are teaching you because you don't know. You would not be an algebra if you knew algebra already. But there has to be an intentional relationship built so that a child does not feel invisible and is afraid to ask questions or does not trust that adult to ask the question.
Yeah.
So the foundational skills, the relationship, and the trust between adult and child to where I'm not invisible. You actually know me. You
Yeah.
actually know that I'm struggling with fractions, or I'm struggling with decibels, or I'm struggling with whatever it is. You actually know me. And that's the data driven piece. You know what I need, and you are willing to help me, and I trust you enough because we have that relationship to where now I understand I'm not invisible.
And those are the students that are ultimately going to say yes to trying something new, to trying something that they may need course correction or guidance with, right? It's that trust and that willingness to be encouraged and to know that the teachers care, right?
Yeah,
So
and on the leadership side, it's the same. It's the same way. Did the teacher trust you enough to where when you give them honest feedback, they take it in and they are willing to adapt their practice based on what you say? It's relational. Like I said, it's a
yeah,
business, but it's a people business. Nobody is coming here to fail every day. But do we have a relationship as adults to where you can tell me, look, warm ups take about 5 minutes, but that was about 15. So I'm going to need you to speed it up because we have to cover this standard.
yeah.
And I will say this, and this is wrong to say, and people will get mad. I don't care about the pacing guide. Everything you taught did the child master. If your pace is off, I need mastery on everything you taught. Because if not, you could just keep pace. Oh yeah, check the box. Yep, I taught that standard. I taught that standard. No, you talked about that standard. You didn't teach that standard. Kids sat there and listened. You talk about that standard. They didn't master it.
Yeah.
But mastering is difficult. And if they master what you taught, I can't be mad.
Dr. King, I'm using that tomorrow. I am using that tomorrow. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I will not care about pacing if they're mastered what you have. I love it.
That means you taught it.
That
That
solves
means you.
it. I
That means
love
you.
it.
That means you actually taught it. You just didn't talk about it. Stayed on
That's
pace.
that's gonna be my line.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then at the end of the year, nobody was fishing, but you on pace. So
That's
who
right.
cares if you on pace?
Exactly. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Dr. Mark King, thank you so much for just sharing all this information. We want to give you this space to let our audience know how they can connect with you, how can they purchase your book, and if there's any other upcoming book signings that you have.
Okay, so the book is on Amazon. As you said, it's called The Middle School Master. Um, I had the last book signing with Senator Corey McCray. Great opportunity. His book, The Apprenticeship That Saved My Life, is amazing because it is a life story. What I wrote is more leadership, organizational structure on how to work this. I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can check me on LinkedIn. The school turnaround group is on Facebook, so there are a lot of opportunities to connect. And like, as I said earlier, this is about service. If I can help, just reach out. It's not one of those things where no, the game is to be sold, not told. If I can help you be successful, that is my service. And this book, if you read this book, can help you navigate those middle school years with your middle school principals and teachers to where not only do you build capacity of that teacher, but you also ensure the students are successful going into ninth grade. But as I said earlier, the ninth grade retention rate belongs to middle school. I used to tell middle school principals that all the time. You know that ninth grade retention rate is yours. No, no, no. Yes, it is. That belongs to you. They didn't just all of a sudden stop going to school in ninth grade. They stopped going for a reason. Foundational skills, lack of relationships. So there are a lot of things in the book that I think that people can use moving forward. And like I said, my favorite part is next steps. This is what you do. I'm also going to visit at NASB in
Chicago,
Chicago.
yes.
Yeah, December 10th to 14th. So I'll be up there. I've had the opportunity to present with Men of Color in Educational Leadership, but I couldn't do that one this year because it's the same time as NASB. So,
Mhm.
but shout out to Dr. Harrison Peters. He's doing a phenomenal job as far as working with men of color to elevate them as
Yeah.
far as leadership is concerned and as far as just being a full man and understanding that when you walk into a building, black males are looking at you. They may never say a word. I look when I ran into that middle school principal, Mr. Grant. I never said another word to him. Now, of course, me and Mr. Blue, the assistant principal, we did spend some time together. We did spend some time together to the principal, but the presence, they never said a word. But them being there put me where I am. So, but those are things that are in the book. I do think that there are opportunities for collaboration along entirely different lines because evidence and research based strategies are evidence and research based strategies. Period. There are things in this book that are evidence and research based. And I just ask people to buy the book and follow it. That's all.
I love it. Well, again, we thank you so much for sharing your insights, your inspiration with us on this episode. And your work remind us that art, of course, is not extra.
Oh,
It's
no.
essential to how
Oh, no.
students learn, connect, and thrive. And as educators and leaders, we have the privilege and responsibility to nurture that creative spark in every child. And so, for anyone listening out there who wants to learn more, be sure to check out Dr. King's new book, The Middle School Master, and also explore the amazing work happening through Arts for Learning Maryland. Dr. King, we truly Truly appreciate your leadership and your commitment to transforming education through creativity and heart. So thank you.
No, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And guys, we want to thank you, our amazing audience, for tuning in for another dynamic episode of Leading with Purpose podcast. And again, I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter.
And I'm Dawn Marie Bornheimer. As you navigate your leadership journey, remember that leading with purpose is not just a philosophy, but a commitment to making a positive impact.
Continue to lead, empower, inspire, and achieve. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your network and don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an opportunity to explore the intersection of leadership and purpose.
Until next time, lead with passion
and lead with a positive intention and continue to lead with purpose. Thank you for joining the Leading with Purpose podcast. Please join us every Monday for a new episode.